Doing pretty well. How about you?
Good, good. Hadn't seen you guys. Good we could catch up here for just a few minutes and talk technology a little bit. Um, our objective today is, as it always is just find good solutions that have an impact, a positive impact on our customers' business. And this is a subject that we've tossed around quite a bit. Wanted to share it here. Talk about redundancy and resiliency as it applies to connectivity to people's business. So first of all, as we've discussed, let's talk a little bit about what redundancy and resiliency mean. Y'all want to kick that around a little bit?
I'll let
Yeah,
Spencer start with that one.
Yeah, so what we've talked about is redundancy is the method of having a backup solution in place. Doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily kick in automatically, but there is something else in place. You are redundant. You have a failover of some sort. Whereas resiliency is that method of switching over is automatic. So you don't experience, you have a limited or no downtime in that switchover with
Right.
with resiliency versus redundancy.
Yeah.
As to summarize that, that's where it is.
Yep.
It can apply to a bunch of different types of technology. It can be hardware, computers, servers, anything like that. The most common thing for us, what we're helping our customers with, is specifically internet and dial tone.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we always frame it around.
Yeah, and that's really why we originally started talking about this with our customers is how do you keep your telephones ringing, right? Because that's kind of our legacy business and where we've come from, and it's more about how do you keep the phone ringing. So let's the idea of what are people doing today? How are people operating today in their current environment? Let's say you've got a customer that's got one connection, right? They've got a single, whether that's fiber, cable, doesn't matter what the connection is, but one single connection. What happens? And that's the big question. It's the question I ask. What happens when your internet goes out? What does that look like? What does that look like, in our world? What does it look like for us when we had that same issue?
Majority of time for most businesses, and I'll talk about us in 2024, if we were to lose, power, if we were to lose internet, both feeds, all three, whatever it is, we can't really do anything. Everything is cloud-based these days.
Right.
So whether that's your email, if that's your phone, if that's what we're on right now, if you don't have internet, most businesses go home. You can't run QuickBooks. You can't run payroll. That's one of the worst days that a business has. And if we're fielding a trouble ticket for an outage, it's payroll day. We can't cut payroll if we don't have internet.
That's not gonna fly.
No, and that's why it's so dangerous for customers to, have only one type of service.
Yeah. Well, typically, and again, we all talk to people about this. Typically, it sends people into a spiral, right? All right, what do we do now? Who can do, who can go home and work? Who can stay here and still function without access to the internet? With phones now relying on the internet connection, now your phones are not ringing possibly. That picture just kind of sends everybody into a tailspin. And you start scrambling for options. Even if you have two connections, in a lot of cases, there's a manual process to, make the changes, and you've been logged because you lost connection. You've been logged out of whatever applications you were on. Even your phone system or your voice over IP phones are going to have to re-register, if you will, so that they get connectivity again. So it does cause an issue, and it's lost productivity. It's you get inefficient because everything comes to a stop until you figure out, all right, how do we operate from here?
And not
It
just
affects
lost
a business
productivity.
image.
Yeah, And I was going to say, depending on the vertical you're in, could be lost revenue. That lost productivity
Yeah.
equals no sales. Or, I mean, think about hospitals or banks. These places rely on this internet connection, these phones, to stay afloat. And
Yeah.
if they're not running, then sometimes you can't even put a number on the revenue that could be lost by this
Yep.
being down.
Let's pick on a certain restaurant that a lot of people may know that have, maybe some golden arches in it. Spencer, didn't you have an experience the other day where you
Oh
couldn't even
yeah,
order?
yeah. When you get that restaurant to not be named, um, if the internet goes down, everything the computer these days want people manually doing anything anymore. Back in the day, you could order something. They go, "Oh, I know that's $3.20. Give me the change. I'll ring it up later." Can't do that anymore. Internet's down. We wait till it comes back up. We close the doors.
Yep.
And so that's just the society we live in now.
Yep. I think grocery stores, you think about a grocery store, gas stations, those types of things that simply rely on that. But it now touches a lot of our customers, and oftentimes people don't think about that. But that's always the question to ask: is what happens when the internet goes down? How painful is that? How much of an impact does that have on your business? How much of an impact does it have on your employees? I know we've been through it before, and yes, I'm going home, or I'm going somewhere that I can get internet connection, right?
Or
so I can continue to.
We're telling people not to come in. Back when we're located in Northwest Louisiana, and a couple of years ago, I think it was a few years ago now, but we had the big freeze that went through Texas and went through Louisiana.
Snowmageddon.
And you just stay home. There's nothing anybody can do. For the most part, cell signals are always resilient. But even those you can't rely on these days. What we just experienced with AT&T.
Right.
So any type of solution that we design with customers typically does not rely on one type of medium and one type of carrier. We like to diversify.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the key to it. And again, getting back to the two big words that we're talking about today, redundancy and resiliency. What does that mean, and how much of it do you need, right? There are certain businesses that say, and it's been surprising to me a few of the times where people have said, no, we cannot go without internet. And sometimes it's kind of surprising, the type of business, until you really dig into, well, tell me how you do business. Tell me how you operate. More and more, and you said it earlier, Mac, everything's in the cloud. My QuickBooks is in the cloud. My payroll company relies on connecting to us to get the information. It's transactions, it's communications, right? It's all tied to the internet now. And that's why we do talk to our customers so much about it, is what is the impact, and how can we help you get to a point where you have in place what you need to continue to operate as you do. And that's, in some cases, we've talked about it. In some cases, it's a very inexpensive solution. Because all you need is, I just need to stay connected.
And that's the biggest thing I think we help, customers really identify, and Spencer, chime in on this, but it's not, you have to have both. No, we can design the solution for a more redundant solution based on your go to work strategy, or we can build it on resiliency. They're two independent things. They work in conjunction, but they're separate. And I think that's something people don't understand either.
A lot of the small businesses that we deal with, our customers, some of them can get away with, like you said, when you talk to them, you find out what their needs are. Can you be down? Some of, yeah, that's fine. I can be down 30 minutes or whatever, or 15, 20 minutes in order for me to switch over to this backup internet or this failover process I've got in place. But some places can't. And so that's where resiliency comes into play versus redundancy. And like we talked about, in order to be resilient, you have to be redundant. So the redundancy is just the act of having that backup, but resiliency is putting it into play.
Yep, you've got to have that second option in place. Then it's a matter of how much work do you want to be involved in making that changeover. And the other thing to talk about, when it comes back up, you've got to now change back. Do you want something that brings you both directions depending upon whether a carrier is up and running? So Spencer, you had a really good analogy the other day when we were talking about this, car tires.
Yeah. So it's like driving a car. You know, would you drive a car without a spare? And if you know, everyone's going to say no to that. That spare tire is your redundancy. You have that spare tire in case something happens. Further going into redundancy, if I get a flat, I've got to get out the car. I've got to jack it up, change that tire out, and keep on rolling. So I'm back in business again, but I was just redundant. Resiliency would be more like having a run flat tire, to where I've had an issue, it keeps going, and then I address the issue at a more convenient time for my family or and then for businesses, for the company.
Yeah. Yep. I thought that was a great analogy, and it did, just kind of bring it home to me as to really what it means in plain, simple terms. And again, it really just depends on the individual business as to what their needs are, as to what the solution to that problem might be. For us,
I was going to say, I think the big question is, how long can you afford to be down? And how painful is that for you? And I think that determines the level of need for your company.
Yeah. What's that experience?
I kind of want to jump around a little bit and keep it on track, but a redundant, resilient conversation almost just happened real time. My headset stopped working all of a sudden. I almost had to reach over and grab my other earbuds, but I've got them here. So, it's not resilient, but I'm redundant. I've got something else, but I'm back here. I didn't hear what y'all said for half a second, but I heard the story about the tires.
Yeah, the car tires that we were throwing around, kicking and talking about the other day. So absolutely. So, and we've hit it on a little bit, but what are the characteristics, or what types of businesses are the ones that we see that need redundancy and those that need resiliency?
The Sunday school answer is everybody needs it. But ultimately, the businesses that are, or Spencer said it earlier, the businesses that are not impacted by being down for 30 minutes to an hour, however long it takes your carrier to fix it, that's if you have a single connection. People who have two type of connection, if your IT professional can manually switch it over, that's not a problem. The type of customers that have their IP addresses mapped to certain other companies, like we mentioned, payroll companies, time clock companies,
VPNs and whatnot.
VPNs, yes. If you've got a mobile workforce that you have a hybrid cloud deployment and those users are coming back into your organization, if you lose your connectivity and it doesn't automatically fail over with routing, your customers out in the field, your employees out in the field are left out in the cold as well. And that's one thing we see with voice, with phone service. Spencer and I had a disagreement many years ago about the type of redundancy or resiliency, and he would always say, customer has two type of connection, that's fine. And I'll say, well, there's this new technology we can put in to make it resilient so that if you're on a phone call and you lose connection, your call's done. Well, this new technology, you just hear a clip. Call keeps going, voice keeps going, not a problem. People on both sides don't have an issue.
Yep.
And with that, whenever, like you said, with everything moving to the cloud now, a lot of voice packages are in the cloud, or everything we say as a service for. That is so much of everyone's business now. Whether it's phones or a video conference call like this, that's everyday things, and these are things I think sometimes companies may take for granted until it's down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
I was just about to say is you don't know, and I've actually used that analogy in sitting with a customer before. Is what would happen if I walked in that room right now and pulled the plug on your internet? Well, first of all, they get this scared look in their eye, and they usually say, "Don't even move."
Yeah.
But that's the scenario. It's almost like doing a tabletop demonstration and saying, "Okay, let's pretend I did that. Now what happens?" Right? I know even in our office, we had this example a couple of years ago where internet went down. Everybody was very busy. Luckily for us, we were able to jump on things like hotspots or each other's hotspots or whatever, right? We were able to kind of keep going, but it scared the heck out of us, right? Because it was, okay, what do I do now? Right? It's the first impact. And that's really a lot of times who it impacts more than anybody else is your workforce, your employees. Then you've got to get into how does that affect my customers? Can they contact me? Will they leave a voicemail? Can they leave a voicemail? In some cases. I think all in all, kind of. Go ahead, Spencer.
I was going to say, on an employee standpoint, for business owners and admins to think about, it's not only just, can that person use the phone now, but think about it from this standpoint too. If that person, like we talked about, everything is in the cloud now, so a lot of the software and a lot of everyday job for people is over the internet. And so if you can no longer reach the internet, now you're paying this person to just sit at their desk. And so you're not just losing money on the customers the revenue that you could be bringing in. Now you're paying someone that's not working.
Yep. When I used to work with a lot of very large companies, they actually would calculate that, cost of downtime. And then I was in the data center business for a few years, and that's very much something we would talk to people about. How much does it cost you? Well, so many of our businesses are not going to calculate that. But if you get them just to, okay, if you had to pay everybody for, 6 hours and they had no connection to the internet, boom. What really happened during that 6 hours that you were paying those people? Unfortunately, we also heard the other thing. We send everybody home. Well, half of those workers are now not getting paid, which puts an upside down smile on their face, right?
Yeah.
And affects the mentality of them. So there is a cost associated with it, an image cost, a hard cost to it. So even getting people to start thinking about that yes, there is a cost associated with downtime, because sometimes it's the trade-off that you have to talk about is,
exactly,
okay, you're going to have to pay a little more. We're going to have to do some other technologies potentially. There's a cost associated with that versus that cost of downtime. And even cybersecurity kind of creeps into this, right? So cybersecurity is starting to affect carriers at times. AT&T has been down because of bad people. So
allegedly.
Yeah, you just you never know where that threat's going to come from, where that outage is going to come from. It can be weather related. Around here, it is a lot of times.
Very much.
But you never know where it's going to come from. I remember again when I worked for the data center, we had a major outage with one of the carriers, and it was either in South Louisiana or East Texas that the problem actually was where the problem was originated. But it affected internet in a very large geographic area. Again, can't do anything about that, but you can diversify carriers, which is redundancy, right? And then we talk about technologies to help people be more resilient if that needs to be. And I think, kind of to wrap it up a little bit, I think that's you know, we have technologies, we have solutions available to us, but it really depends on who you are, what your needs are, as to what that solution is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it really just takes kind of sitting down and talking to people, and again, talking to them about cost of downtime.
And that's what I was going to say. No matter what any service you get costs, it costs nothing to have this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that absolutely needs to happen. Have the conversation. What would I do if this was down for a significant amount of time? And what is significant to me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, because it's different for everybody. Again, people say, yeah, we can be down a few hours. Can you be down a few hours on payroll day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you be down a few hours on Monday morning? I've heard this from many, many attorneys. Apparently Monday is a big court day for certain attorneys.
Hmm.
And they
Same
say,
thing with clinics.
I walk in the office to gather my files together, which are on the computer. I needed one more document and I couldn't get to it because it was not local. Right. So, you know, show up to court unprepared. That's not a good thing for your case. So again, it just depends on the business. But again, the conversation's free. Love to talk about it because we have just a plethora of ways to solve the problem. I think it's just really getting people engaged, getting them to think about it, having the conversation. So,
Absolutely.
cool. I don't see any questions that have come up here. We've done a good job, I think, of you know, discussing this subject, and it's again, it's one we're well versed in, you know, and we kind of welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation with the customers. So, you know, kind of it's an ask, if you know, if this is important to you, get in touch with us, let us know, let us have time to have a conversation with you and see what we can do.
Absolutely.
All right, appreciate it, guys. We'll catch you on the next call, whenever that one is.
Y'all be on the lookout.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Later.